My name is Daniel Carver, and I've been hiking the Appalachian wilderness for 15 years. I know these mountains like the veins on the back of my hands. I know when to trust my instincts, and I know when something feels wrong. That week in Pisgah National Forest taught me that sometimes knowing doesn't matter. Sometimes you're already too deep in it before you realize the trap is closed. I'd driven down from Virginia to South Carolina specifically to get away from the marked trails. The popular routes through Pisgah were crawling with weekend warriors and college kids on spring break. So I headed deep into the backcountry, miles from any established campsite. My truck was parked at an unmarked pull-off near Davidson River, and I'd hiked 6 miles southeast into dense hardwood forest, where the canopy grew so thick that afternoon sunlight filtered through in cathedral rays. The spot I chose was perfect, a small clearing beside a creek, far enough from the water to avoid the bugs, but close enough to hear it babbling over smooth stones. I set up my tent, a lightweight 2-person Sierra Designs that I'd had for 8 years, and arranged my camp with the efficiency of countless previous trips. By the time darkness fell, I had a small fire going, freeze-dried beef stroganoff in my belly, and the satisfaction of complete isolation. That first night, I slept like the dead. When I woke the next morning, something had changed. I felt it before I even unzipped my tent, a prickling sensation at the base of my skull that told me I wasn't alone anymore. I crawled out into the cool morning air, stretched, and that's when I saw it. Another tent, maybe 50 meters away, partially hidden by a cluster of mountain laurel bushes. It definitely hadn't been there when I went to sleep. The tent was old, one of those heavy canvas jobs from the 70s or 80s, forest green and stained with what looked like years of mildew and dirt. It sagged in the middle like something was wrong with the poles. The entrance was zipped, completely shut. I stood there for a full minute, coffee forgotten, just staring at it. There were no footprints leading to or from it. No trail of disturbed leaves or broken twigs. No campfire ring. No backpack leaning against a tree. No rope strung up for a bear bag. Nothing. Just this ancient tent that had appeared overnight like a mushroom after rain. "Hello?" I called out. My voice echoed slightly off the surrounding trees. "Hey, is anyone there?" Silence. Not even the rustle of someone stirring inside. I walked the perimeter of my camp, looking for tracks, any sign of how someone could have set up that close without me hearing. I'm a light sleeper in the woods. I wake up when raccoons knock over a water bottle, but there was nothing. The forest floor around the tent was undisturbed, a carpet of last year's oak leaves and pine needles without a single footprint. I decided to give whoever it was their space. Maybe they were ultralight hikers who'd come in late, or maybe they were just antisocial. I'd encountered all types in these mountains. Some people came out here to get away from other people, and I could respect that. So I went about my day, planned to do some fishing downstream and scout a ridgeline I'd spotted on my map, but I couldn't shake the feeling of being watched. Every time I glanced back toward camp, that tent was there, silent and still. No movement, no sounds. By afternoon, I'd caught myself looking over my shoulder dozens of times. The forest felt different now, heavier somehow, like the air pressure had changed. Birds that had been singing that morning had gone quiet. Even the creek seemed muted. When I returned to camp around 4 in the afternoon, the tent was still sealed shut. No signs of life. No smoke, no sounds, nothing. That's when I started to get concerned. What if someone was in there hurt or sick? What if they needed help? "Hey!" I shouted, louder this time. "I don't mean to bother you, but I'm getting worried. Are you okay in there?" Nothing. I moved closer, heart pounding harder than it should. Something primal in my brain was screaming at me to stay away, to pack up my gear and leave, but I pushed it down. I was an experienced outdoorsman. I'd dealt with bears, gotten lost in whiteouts, survived a lightning strike that hit a tree 10 feet from me. I wasn't going to be spooked by an empty tent, except I was pretty sure it wasn't empty. "I'm coming over there," I announced, giving fair warning. "Just want to make sure you're all right." I crossed the distance between us. The tent looked even worse up close. The canvas was covered in dark stains that could have been dirt or could have been something else. The zipper was one of those old metal ones, and it was pulled all the way down on the inside, sealing it completely shut. I could smell something coming from it, musty and stale, like a basement that hadn't been opened in years. My hand shook as I reached for the zipper pull. "Get it together, Daniel. It's just a tent." I grabbed the cold metal and pulled. The sound of the zipper seemed impossibly loud in the quiet forest. I peeled back the flap and looked inside. Empty. No sleeping bag, no gear, no person. Just bare canvas floor. But the walls. Jesus Christ, the walls. Every square inch of the interior was covered with photographs. Hundreds of them, maybe thousands, all different sizes, overlapping and taped haphazardly to the canvas. And every single one was of me. There I was, sleeping in my tent, mouth open, completely unconscious. There I was, squatting by the creek that morning, filling my water bottle. There I was, eating breakfast, stirring my coffee, scratching my arm, tying my boot. Me walking through the forest, me studying my map, me taking a piss behind a tree 2 days ago. 2 days ago. The photos went back further. Me setting up my tent on that first night. Me hiking in with my backpack. Me at the pull-off by my truck, loading my gear. There were timestamps in the corners. Some photos were from a week ago when I'd been scouting the area. Some were from 3 days ago when I'd stopped in Brevard for supplies. My hands went numb. The photographs weren't just from this trip. There were pictures of me at home in Virginia, walking to my truck in the morning, sitting on my porch, visible through my kitchen window, eating dinner. Someone had been following me for at least a week, maybe longer, documenting every moment, every movement. I stumbled backward out of the tent, nearly fell, caught myself on a tree. My heart was jackhammering so hard I thought it might break through my ribs. I spun around, scanning the forest in every direction. They were watching me right now. They had to be. They'd been watching me the whole time. "Who are you?" I screamed into the trees. "What do you want?" The forest swallowed my words. Nothing moved. No one answered. I ran back to my camp, my survival instincts finally kicking into gear. I didn't bother with organization, just started throwing things into my pack. Tent got stuffed in without being folded, sleeping bag crammed in on top, cook set rattling loose. I had to get out, had to get back to my truck, had to get to somewhere with people and cell service and locked doors. That's when I heard it. The zipper. The sound came from behind me, from that nightmare tent across the clearing. The long, slow rasp of metal teeth separating. Someone was opening it from the inside. I didn't look, didn't wait to see what emerged. I grabbed my pack, only half loaded, and ran. I didn't follow the trail I'd taken in. I just ran in what I thought was the direction of my truck, crashing through underbrush, branches whipping my face, lungs burning. I could hear something behind me, keeping pace, moving through the forest with impossible silence, except for the occasional snap of a branch that let me know it was still there. I ran for what felt like hours, but was probably only 30 minutes. Finally, gasping and dizzy, I burst out of the tree line onto a dirt road. Not the road where I'd parked, but a road nonetheless. I followed it, jogging now, my pack bouncing awkwardly on my back, until I saw a pickup truck coming from the other direction. I flagged it down, probably looked like a madman. The driver was an older man, weather-beaten face and careful eyes. He took one look at me and asked if I needed help. "Someone's been following me," I managed to gasp out. "In the forest, please. I just need to get to town." He let me in, without argument. As we drove away, I looked back at the tree line, searching for any sign of movement. There was nothing, just the dark wall of forest, standing silent and watching. But I knew better. I knew they were still there, somewhere in those trees, with a tent full of photographs and patience that stretched back weeks. The old man drove me to the ranger station in Brevard. I tried to explain what happened to the rangers, but even as the words came out of my mouth, I could hear how insane they sounded. They took a report, looked concerned in that professional way that meant they didn't believe me, and said they'd send someone out to check. They offered to drive me back to my truck. I refused. Told them I'd walk the 8 miles of highway rather than go back into those woods. They found my truck 2 days later. Someone had slashed all 4 tires and spray-painted a message on the hood in red paint. "I know where you live. I sold my house in Virginia within a month. Bought an apartment in downtown Charlotte, 4th floor. Security cameras on every entrance. I haven't been camping since. Haven't even driven past a forest without my chest getting tight." The rangers never found the tent or any evidence of who'd been watching me. The photographs, all those hundreds of photographs, are still out there somewhere. Sometimes, late at night, I check the photos on my phone, the ones I still have access to on social media, the ones tagged with my location. I delete them compulsively now. I keep my curtains closed. I check over my shoulder constantly because the worst part, the thing that keeps me awake at night, isn't what happened in Pisgah National Forest. It's the envelope that showed up in my mailbox last week. No return address, no postmark. Inside was a single photograph. It was me sitting in my new apartment, taken from somewhere across the street. I'm looking at my laptop, unaware of the camera. At the bottom, handwritten in red ink. "Nice place. When should I set up the tent?" I've stopped sleeping. I've stopped feeling safe. And I know, with absolute certainty, that somewhere out there, someone is still watching, still waiting, still documenting every moment of my life. The tent might have disappeared from Pisgah National Forest, but whoever was in it never left. They're still here. They've always been here. And one day soon, I'll wake up and find that sagging green tent set up in my living room. Walls papered with new photographs. And I'll finally learn what they want. I just hope I survive the answer. If you enjoy my stories, please subscribe and hit the like button. I'd really appreciate it. Leave a comment telling me which city you're from and what time it is there. I'm curious to know where my favorite subscribers are from, and share the scariest story that ever happened to you. I'll pin the best one under the video forever. My name is Lucas Brennan, and I'm telling you this story from a hospital bed in Lexington, Kentucky. The doctors say I'm lucky to be alive. I don't feel lucky. I feel like I barely escaped something monstrous, wearing the mask of kindness. 3 months ago, I was hiking the backcountry trails near Red River Gorge in Powell County. I'd taken an unmarked path that wound through dense forest, away from the tourist spots. That's where my boot caught on a root, hidden under wet leaves. I went down hard, my right leg twisting beneath me. The sound of my tibia snapping echoed through the empty woods like a gunshot. I lay there for what felt like hours, the pain radiating up my leg in waves. My phone had no signal. I'd told no one my exact route. The realization that I might die alone in these woods was just settling into my bones when I heard footsteps crunching through the undergrowth. He emerged from the trees like a ghost, an old man, maybe 75, with a weathered face and pale gray eyes that seemed to look through me rather than at me. He wore clothes that looked handmade, patched and repatched over decades. Without a word, he examined my leg with hands that moved with practiced efficiency. "Broke clean through," he said finally, his voice soft as wind through leaves. "I can help. My place ain't far." I had no choice. He fashioned a stretcher from branches and rope that appeared from his pack, then carried me through the forest with surprising strength. We traveled for maybe 30 minutes before the cabin appeared, sitting in a hollow so thick with vegetation that you could walk within 20 feet and never see it. Inside was sparse but clean, a single room with a bed, a wood stove, shelves lined with jars and bottles. He laid me on the bed and went to work, setting my bone with the skill of a trained medic. The pain was excruciating until he gave me something to drink, a bitter tea that made the world soft and distant. "Sleep now," he said. "Healing takes time." I woke in darkness. Oil lamps cast shadows that danced on rough wooden walls. My leg throbbed, but the sharp edge of pain had dulled. I tried to sit up, and that's when I saw it. The door had a deadbolt installed on the outside. I hobbled to the window, my splinted leg dragging. Iron bars, thick as my thumb, crossed the opening. "You're awake." The old man was sitting at a table in the corner, so still I hadn't noticed him. "Good. The bone's set proper, but you need rest. Lots of rest." "Why are there bars on the windows?" My voice came out steadier than I felt. He smiled, a grandfatherly smile that didn't reach his eyes. "Protection. Wild animals around here. Bears, coyotes. Can't be too careful." "I need to contact someone. My family." "No phone here. No electricity. Just the healing." "You'll be right soon enough." "How soon?" "When you're ready." He stood, moving to the stove. "Made soup. You need to eat. Keep your strength up." Over the following days, a routine emerged. He'd bring food 3 times a day, check my leg, change the splint with gentle precision. He never hurt me, never raised his voice, but he also never answered my questions about leaving, about contacting anyone, about why the door stayed locked. "Not yet," he'd say, that soft smile never wavering. "You're not ready yet." On the 5th night, I couldn't sleep. The medication he'd given me was wearing off faster, my mind clearing. I searched the small cabin as quietly as I could. Under the bed, my fingers found something. A book. The journal was leather-bound, water-stained, the pages yellowed with age. The first entry was dated April 15th, 1998. My name is Thomas Ridley. I fell hiking near Slade. An old man found me, brought me to his cabin. He set my broken ankle, given me medicine, says I need to stay until I'm healed. The door is locked. There are bars on the windows. My hands started shaking 27 years ago. Someone else had been here. I flipped through pages of increasingly desperate entries, weeks of the same routine I was experiencing. Food, medicine, the constant refrain that he wasn't ready yet. Then the tone changed. June 10th. He keeps looking at me differently, measuring me. He said my ankle is healing beautifully. Too beautifully, maybe. June 14th. Found old medical books on his shelf, anatomy texts, surgical procedures, butchering techniques for large game. God help me. The final entry was dated June 16th, 1998. He said I'm ready. Said tomorrow night is a celebration dinner, a tradition when a patient fully recovers. He's been in the shed all day, sharpening knives. I can hear metal on whetstone through the walls. I understand now. I'm not a patient. I'm livestock. He's been fattening me up. I have to escape tonight. I have to. The entry ended mid-sentence. Dark brown stains marked the bottom of the page. I heard the deadbolt slide. I shoved the journal back and lay down as the old man entered. He stood over me, studying me in the lamplight, and I kept my eyes nearly closed, feigning sleep. Almost there, he whispered. Just a bit more time. Need you strong and healthy. After he left, I lay in the darkness, understanding finally what this was. He wasn't healing me. He was preparing me. The next morning, I pretended to take my medication, but spit it out when he turned away. I needed to be alert. My leg was healing well. His skill was genuine, which somehow made it worse. In another week, I might be able to run. But I didn't have another week. On the 7th night, I made my move. I'd found a loose floorboard, worked it free over 3 days. The space beneath was just big enough. I waited until I heard him snoring in the shed where he slept. Then I started digging through the dirt foundation with my bare hands. It took 6 hours to make a hole wide enough to squeeze through. My hands were raw and bleeding, my leg screaming with every movement. But I crawled out into the cold Kentucky night and ran, hobbled, really my splinted leg dragging, but I moved as fast as I could through the darkness. I have no idea how long I stumbled through those woods. The sun was rising when I collapsed on a fire road. A ranger found me 3 hours later, delirious and hypothermic. The police went back with me. The cabin was empty. The old man had vanished. But in the shed, they found what they needed to believe me: freezers, meat processing equipment, and bones. 24 sets of human bones, according to the forensic report. Thomas Ridley's driver's license was in a box with 23 others. 24 people over 40 years, all hikers who'd gotten injured in those remote woods, all rescued by a kind old man who'd taken them somewhere to heal. They never caught him. He disappeared into the Kentucky wilderness like morning fog. But they shut down the search after 3 months, declared him dead or fled. I know better. I think he's still out there, waiting near the trails, watching for the next person who falls, who needs help. I still have nightmares about that cabin, about his gentle hands setting my bone, about his soft voice saying, "Not yet, not ready yet," while he looked at me the way a farmer looks at livestock. The worst part, he really was a skilled healer. My legs set perfectly. The doctors in Lexington said whoever did the splinting knew exactly what they were doing. That's what keeps me up at night. The kindness was real. The care was genuine. And underneath it all was something patient and hungry, waiting for me to heal just right before the celebration dinner. I don't hike alone anymore, and I'll never forget that smile, that grandfatherly smile that promised safety while hiding something monstrous beneath. My name is Connor Hayes, and what happened to me and my climbing partners in the Black Mountains of North Carolina last November still keeps me awake at night. I'm writing this down because I need people to know the truth about that place, about what's up there on those peaks, calling out in voices that aren't its own. We were 4 experienced climbers, myself, Jake Morrison, Devin Chen, and his girlfriend Rachel Whitmore. We'd planned a 5-day expedition to tackle some of the more remote peaks in Pisgah National Forest, far from the tourist-packed trails of the Blue Ridge Parkway. Our base camp was set up in a valley between Mount Mitchell and a smaller, unnamed peak that locals called Raven's Tooth because of its jagged silhouette against the sky. The first 2 days were perfect. Clear weather, challenging climbs, the kind of pristine wilderness experience we'd driven 8 hours from Virginia to find. On the 3rd day, Jake and I decided to attempt Raven's Tooth while Devin and Rachel stayed at base camp to rest. Devin had twisted his ankle on the previous day's descent. Nothing serious, but enough that he wanted to take it easy. We left at dawn, the November air so cold it burned our lungs with each breath. The climb was technical, but manageable, and by early afternoon, Jake and I were within a few hundred feet of the summit. That's when we heard it. "Help! Please, someone help me!" The voice echoed across the valley, clear as a bell despite the wind. It was Devin's voice, unmistakably his voice, with that slight Boston accent he'd never quite lost. Jake and I looked at each other, then back down toward base camp, about a mile away, and perhaps 1,500 feet below us. We couldn't see the tents from our position, hidden as they were behind a ridge of pine trees. "Devin," Jake shouted, "that you? Help! I'm hurt! Please, God, help me!" The desperation in the voice made my stomach clench. Something was wrong. Devin must have tried to walk on that ankle and fallen, or maybe a bear had come into camp. A dozen scenarios raced through my mind, each worse than the last. "We're coming," I yelled back. "Hold on." Jake and I began our descent immediately, abandoning the summit, moving as quickly as we dared on the treacherous rock face. The whole way down, we kept hearing Devin's voice, sometimes crying out in pain, sometimes begging for help, sometimes just sobbing. It drove us to take risks we normally wouldn't, to skip safety checks, to practically run down sections that should have been carefully rappelled. It took us 90 minutes to reach base camp, our hands torn and bleeding from rough rock, our legs shaking from exertion. We burst into the clearing, calling Devin's name. He was sitting outside his tent, calmly reading a paperback novel, his injured ankle propped up on a camping stool. Rachel was beside him, working on her laptop, taking advantage of the solar charger we'd brought. They both looked up at us, startled by our dramatic entrance. "What's wrong?" Devin asked, setting down his book. "You guys look like you've seen a ghost." Jake and I stood there, panting, trying to process what we were seeing. "You didn't call for help?" I managed. "What? No. Why would I?" "We heard you," Jake said. For the last hour and a half. You were screaming for help, saying you were hurt. Devin and Rachel exchanged glances. Connor, we've been sitting here all afternoon. Nobody's made a sound except Rachel typing. And I'm fine, see? He wiggled his elevated foot, ankles already feeling better. The four of us spent the next hour trying to make sense of it. Could it have been another climber? But the voice had been Devin's, exactly his voice, with his inflections and his accent. Could we have imagined it? But Jake and I had both heard it, had heard the same things. We'd even heard it calling from different directions as we descended, as if Devin had been moving around the mountain. Some kind of echo effect, Rachel suggested. Sound does weird things in mountain valleys. Echo of what? Jake countered. Devin didn't make any sounds. We couldn't explain it. Eventually, we wrote it off as some strange acoustic phenomenon. Maybe voices from hikers miles away that had bounced around the peaks in just the right way to sound close and clear. It wasn't a satisfying explanation, but it was the only rational one we could come up with. That night, none of us slept well. I kept waking up, listening to the wind move through the trees, wondering if I was hearing voices in it. Around 3 a.m, I stepped out of my tent to relieve myself and found Devin standing at the edge of the clearing, staring up at Raven's Tooth. Can't sleep either? I asked. He didn't turn around. Do you hear that? I listened. Wind, branches creaking, the distant hoot of an owl. Hear what? The calling. It hasn't stopped. It's been going all night, Connor. Listen. I strained my ears, filtering out the natural sounds of the forest, and then I heard it. Faint, so faint I couldn't be sure it wasn't my imagination, but there, a voice calling from somewhere up on Raven's Tooth. Connor Hayes, can you hear me? I need you to come up here. Please, I need you. My blood turned to ice. It was my own voice. I was hearing my own voice calling to me from the mountain. You hear it too, Devin whispered. It wasn't a question. I nodded, unable to speak. The voice came again, louder, this time. Connor Hayes, born March 15th, 1992, in Richmond, Virginia, son of Margaret and Thomas Hayes. I know you can hear me, Connor. I know everything about you. Come to me. Come home. How could it know that? My birthday, my parents' names, my hometown. These weren't things you could pick up from conversation. This was information from my driver's license, from official records. It knows my middle name, Devin said quietly. It told me my middle name is Lawrence. Nobody calls me that. It's not on any of my hiking permits, not on my social media. Only my parents use it. How does it know? We woke Jake and Rachel. They'd heard it too. Rachel was crying, had been crying for the last hour, listening to a voice that sounded exactly like her dead sister calling to her from the peak, telling her things about their childhood that only the two of them had known. Jake was the most shaken. It's using my daughter's voice, he said, his face pale, in the glow of our lanterns. My daughter Sarah, but here's the thing, guys, Sarah's alive. She's at home in Arlington with her mother. So how is this thing using her voice? And how does it know what we did for her 7th birthday? The treasure hunt we set up in the backyard? We never posted photos of that. That was a private family moment. We huddled in the largest tent, all 4 of us. While outside, the voices continued. Sometimes they called singly, sometimes in a horrible chorus. My voice, Devin's voice, Rachel's dead sister, Jake's daughter. They knew things, intimate things, secrets we'd never shared with anyone. "We need to leave," Rachel said. "Right now. Pack up and get out of here." But Jake shook his head. "It's pitch black, and we're in rough terrain. Someone will break an ankle, or worse. We wait for dawn, then we move fast." The voices continued all night. Around 4 in the morning, they changed tactics. Instead of calling from the peak, they sounded like they were circling our camp, moving through the trees. My voice begged to be let into the tent. Devon's voice screamed that something was chasing it. Rachel's sister sobbed and pleaded. Jake's daughter sang a lullaby their family used to share. We didn't open the tent. We didn't respond. We sat in terrified silence, holding our headlamps and our climbing gear like weapons, waiting for dawn. When the sun finally rose, the voices stopped. The sudden silence was almost worse than the calling had been. We packed up our camp in record time, barely speaking, just desperate to put distance between ourselves and that place. As we started our hike out, following the trail back toward the parking area, I made the mistake of looking back at Raven's Tooth. In the early morning light, I could see the peak clearly for the first time since we'd arrived. There were shapes up there, dark shapes moving along the ridge line. They were too far away to make out clearly, but they moved wrong, with a jerking, unnatural gait that made my stomach turn. "Don't look at them," Devon hissed, grabbing my arm. "Just keep walking." We walked. We walked faster than we'd ever hiked in our lives, practically running down sections of trail that would normally have required careful footing. Behind us, the voices started again. But now, they weren't calling from the mountain. They were following us, keeping pace. All was just out of sight behind the next bend in the trail. I heard my voice telling me to slow down, that I was going to hurt myself. Jake heard his daughter begging him not to leave her. Rachel heard her sister accusing her of abandoning her all over again. Devon heard his own voice, but speaking in a language he didn't understand, guttural and strange. We made it to the parking lot by noon, threw our gear into Jake's truck, and drove. We didn't stop driving until we were back in Virginia, back to streetlights and traffic, and the comforting noise of civilization. We reported what happened to the Forest Service. They listened politely, took notes, said they'd look into it. I'm sure they filed our report under tired hikers experiencing auditory hallucinations. Maybe they were right. Maybe we did imagine it all, 4 people suffering from the same delusion brought on by altitude and exhaustion and the isolation of the wilderness. But I don't think so. Because a week after we got back, I received a package in the mail. No returned address, postmarked from Asheville, North Carolina. Inside was a photograph. It showed me, Jake, Devon, and Rachel huddled in our tent that night, taken from outside through the gap where the zipper didn't quite meet the fabric. Our faces were pale with terror, illuminated by our headlamps. On the back of the photograph, written in handwriting that looked exactly like mine, were 8 words. "You came so close. Next time, reach the peak." I burned the photograph. I blocked Jake's number when he started calling me obsessively, rambling about hearing his daughter's voice on his baby monitor, even though Sarah was at college now. I deleted Rachel's emails when she started sending me research about mimics and wendigos and things that steal voices. I'm writing this from my apartment in Richmond. I've lived here for 3 years, 4th floor, security building, surrounded by a million people. I should feel safe. But some nights, when the city is quiet and I'm lying in bed trying to sleep, I hear it, faint, barely audible over the sound of traffic and sirens, but definitely there. My own voice, calling to me from somewhere far away, inviting me back to the mountains, promising me that if I just come back, if I just climb to the peak, everything will make sense. It knows things about me now, things I haven't told anyone, thoughts I've only had in the privacy of my own mind. I won't go back. I'll never go back to those mountains. But I wonder, sometimes, in the darkest part of the night, how long I can resist. Because whatever is up there on Raven's Tooth, it's patient. It can wait. It's been waiting in those mountains for a long time, calling out in stolen voices, learning everything about everyone who comes near, and it hasn't forgotten about me. My name is Connor Hayes, and I survived the mountains of North Carolina, but I don't know for how much longer, because the thing that lives on Raven's Tooth is calling me home, and every night its voice gets a little bit louder. My name is Ethan Caldwell, and I'm a photography student at University of North Carolina, Asheville. I'm telling you this story because what happened to me in Pisgah National Forest last October defies every rational explanation I've tried to construct. I'm a man of science, of apertures and shutter speeds, of light and shadow captured in measurable increments. But some things can't be explained by f-stops and ISO settings. I'd driven out to a remote section of Pisgah, miles from the popular trails near Looking Glass Rock, to work on my senior thesis project about isolation and wilderness. The area I chose was deep in the backcountry, accessible only by an unmarked logging road that dead-ended near Shining Creek. From there, I hiked 3 miles into dense hardwood forest, my Canon and tripod strapped to my pack, looking for that perfect, untouched wilderness to photograph. The spot I found was everything I'd hoped for. A small clearing surrounded by ancient oaks and maples, a creek running through moss-covered stones, afternoon light filtering through the canopy in golden shafts. I set up my tent and spent the rest of that first day shooting, filling my memory card with images of light and shadow, texture and form. It was on my way back to camp, just before sunset, that I found the camera. It was lying beside the trail, half buried in fallen leaves, as if someone had dropped it and never come back. A Nikon F3, one of those old professional film cameras from the 80s. The kind serious photographers used before digital took over. The body was scratched and dirty, the leather grip worn smooth, but when I picked it up and looked through the viewfinder, everything worked. The light meter responded, the shutter fired. There was even a roll of film inside, partially exposed. I should have left it there, should have turned it into the ranger station. But curiosity got the better of me. Whoever had lost this camera, they'd left 27 exposures on the roll. As a photographer, I couldn't resist seeing what they'd captured. Back at camp, I carefully rewound the film and removed it from the camera. I had a portable changing bag in my kit, part of my analog photography gear for the thesis. By the light of my camping lantern, I developed the film using a small tank I'd brought, then hung the negatives to dry from a line I'd strung between 2 trees. While I waited for them to dry, I made dinner over my camp stove and tried not to think about how isolated I was. The nearest other camper was probably 10 miles away. Cell service was non-existent out here. Just me, the forest, and whatever had been captured on that roll of film. When the negatives were dry enough, I used my portable light box and loupe to examine them. What I saw made my blood run cold. The first few images showed people hiking through forest that looked exactly like where I was camped. Same trees, same rock formations, same angle of light through the canopy. The people were wearing modern clothes, North Face jackets, hiking boots with bright logos. A woman in yoga pants checking her phone. These weren't old photographs. They couldn't be more than a few days old, a week at most. But that was impossible. The camera and film stock had been lying in those leaves long enough to accumulate a layer of dirt and decay. Months, maybe longer. I kept looking through the negatives, my hands starting to shake. More hikers, more familiar locations. That distinctive split boulder I'd photographed that afternoon. The fallen oak that bridged the creek. The clearing where my tent now sat. Then I reached frame 17. It showed someone taking a photograph. The composition was simple. A man holding a camera up to his eye, framed against a forest backdrop. It took me several seconds to recognize my own jacket, my own stance, my own face behind the viewfinder. It was me. The photograph showed me standing in this exact clearing, holding up the very camera I'd found, but I hadn't taken any pictures with that camera. I'd found it only hours ago. How could there be a photograph of me using it? My hands trembled as I moved the light box to examine the image more closely. That's when I saw it. In the background, partially obscured by a tree trunk, was another figure. Another me. This version was standing perfectly still, hands at his sides, staring directly into the camera with an expression I couldn't quite read. Not quite fear, not quite warning. Something else. I jerked back from the light box, my heart hammering. This was wrong. This was impossible. The next few frames showed more images of the clearing. My tent appeared in them, set up exactly where it was now. But these photos showed it at different times of day. Morning light, afternoon sun, evening shadows. Someone had been here, photographing my campsite, before I'd even arrived. Frame 23 made me drop the loupe. It showed me sleeping in my tent. The photo had been taken from outside, shooting through the mesh window. I could see myself curled in my sleeping bag, completely unconscious, vulnerable. The angle suggested whoever took the photo had been crouching right beside my tent, right beside where I'd be sleeping tonight. The remaining frames were all similar. Me cooking dinner, me hanging my food bag, me washing my face in the creek. Ordinary camp activities, all photographed from hiding, all showing me doing things I hadn't done yet. The last frame on the roll was different from the others. It showed my tent again, but this time the entrance was torn open, not unzipped, torn. The nylon fabric was shredded in long vertical gashes, as if something with claws had ripped its way out from inside. The surrounding ground was disturbed, leaves and dirt scattered in a pattern that suggested violence. And on the tent fabric, barely visible in the image's dim light, were dark stains that looked like blood. I sat there in my camping chair, the negatives hanging between us like accusations, trying to process what I was seeing. Every rational part of my brain screamed that this had to be some kind of hoax, some elaborate prank. But who would go to such lengths? And how could the photos show me, specifically me, doing things in this exact location. Then I noticed something I'd missed before. In the corner of several frames, barely visible, was a date stamp. The old Nikon must have had that feature activated. I grabbed my loupe and examined the numbers more carefully. October 19th, 2025. Tomorrow. The date stamp showed tomorrow's date. I stood up so fast my chair fell over backward. The photographs weren't of the past, they were of the future. They were showing me what was going to happen. The forest around me suddenly felt different, pressing in from all sides. Every shadow could hide someone watching. Every rustle of leaves could be footsteps. I grabbed my flashlight and swept it across the perimeter of my camp, but saw nothing except trees and darkness. Think, Ethan, think rationally. There had to be an explanation. Maybe the camera's internal clock was wrong. Maybe these were old photos that just happened to look similar to my location. Maybe. But I knew the truth. Deep in my gut, below the level of rational thought, I knew these photographs were showing me something real, something that was going to happen unless I changed it. I made my decision quickly. I would pack up and leave. Right now, in the dark, I would hike back to my truck and get the hell out of this forest. The photographs showed tomorrow, but if I wasn't here tomorrow, they couldn't come true. I started breaking down my tent, working fast, my headlamp beam bouncing wildly as I moved. That's when I heard the camera shutter. Click. The sound came from somewhere in the trees to my left. The distinctive mechanical snap of a film camera taking a picture. Then again, from my right. Click. And behind me. Click. 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 Multiple cameras, all around me in the darkness, all photographing me. I spun around, my headlamp cutting through the night, but saw nothing. Just trees and shadows and that goddamn clicking sound coming from everywhere and nowhere. I abandoned my tent, half collapsed and ran, grabbed my pack with my essentials and ran toward the trail that would lead me back to my truck. Behind me, I could hear the cameras following, keeping pace, clicking constantly like some kind of insect chorus. The 3-mile hike back to the logging road took me an hour and a half. I ran when I could, scrambled and stumbled when I couldn't, the sound of shutters clicking always just behind me. Twice I fell, scraping my hands raw on rocks. Once I thought I saw a flash, like someone taking a photo with the flash on, but when I looked, there was nothing there. I reached my truck just after midnight, threw my pack in the back, and drove. I didn't stop until I was back in Asheville, parked under the bright lights of a 24-hour gas station, surrounded by the safe, normal sounds of civilization. I never went back for my tent or the rest of my gear. The university gave me an incomplete on my thesis. I told them I'd gotten sick, had to cut the trip short. I didn't mention the camera or the photographs. Who would believe me? But here's the thing that keeps me awake at night. 3 days after I got back, I was sorting through the photos on my Canon, the digital images I'd taken before finding the Nikon, and in one of them, a landscape shot I'd taken of the clearing before setting up my tent. I saw something I'd missed before. In the far background, barely visible among the trees, was a figure, a man holding a camera. When I zoomed in as far as the resolution would allow, I could just make out his face. It was me, another me, standing in the forest, photographing myself, photographing the forest. And behind that version of me, barely visible, was another figure, and another, and another. A whole line of me stretching back into the trees, each one holding a camera, each one watching the one in front, an infinite regression of observers and observed. I destroyed the Nikon, smashed it with a hammer, and threw the pieces in a dumpster behind my apartment building. I deleted all the photos from my Canon. I dropped out of the photography program and switched my major to accounting, something safe, something that doesn't involve cameras or forests or questions about the nature of reality. But sometimes, late at night, I still hear it, that soft, mechanical click of a shutter, releasing, capturing an image. It comes from outside my window, from the hallway, from inside my closet. Someone or something is still photographing me, still documenting my life, still creating images of a future I haven't lived yet. I don't know what happens in those photographs. Oh, I don't know if they show me surviving or if they show me meeting the same fate as that torn tent. I only know that somewhere in some dark room I can't find, someone is developing those images, hanging them up to dry, studying them carefully, waiting for the moment when what they show comes true. My name is Ethan Caldwell, and I survived Pisgah National Forest. But I'm not sure I escaped it, because every photograph ever taken captures not just an image, but a moment in time. And somewhere in those woods, there are cameras still clicking, still capturing moments that haven't happened yet, still creating a future that might be inevitable. I just hope I'm not in frame when the last shutter falls. The following text was recovered from a water-damaged notebook found in a ravine approximately 3.2 miles from Springer Mountain in the Chattahoochee National Forest, Georgia, on November 18, 2025. The notebook belonged to volunteer search and rescue member Paul Hendricks, age 34, from Dahlonega. He disappeared during a search operation for missing hiker Daniel Cross on November 15th. Neither man has been found. November 15th, 2025, 2:15 p.m. I'm writing this during our lunch break, sitting on a fallen log while the rest of the search team eats sandwiches and reviews the grid map. My name is Paul Hendricks, and I've been volunteering with Lumpkin County Search and Rescue for 3 years. This is the first search that's made me genuinely uneasy. Daniel Cross, a solo hiker from Tennessee, was reported missing 4 days ago. His car was found at the Springer Mountain trailhead, but he never checked in with anyone after that. We've been combing the area since yesterday morning, working in a line formation, staying within sight of each other. Standard procedure. The forest here is dense, old-growth Georgia pine mixed with oak and mountain laurel. Visibility drops to maybe 20 feet in places. The terrain is rugged, full of ravines and creek beds that could hide a body for years. We've found nothing so far, not even a candy wrapper or a footprint. What bothers me is the silence. The woods feel empty in a way that's not natural. No bird song, no squirrels rustling in the underbrush. Just our footsteps and the occasional radio chatter. 3:47 p.m. We resumed the search after lunch. I was positioned on the left flank of our line, moving slowly through thick undergrowth. I had to stop to untangle my vest from a blackberry thicket, and when I looked up, the person next to me had moved ahead. I could see his bright orange search vest through the trees, maybe 30 yards ahead. I called out that I'd caught up, but he didn't respond, just kept walking, moving steadily through the forest. I figured his radio was off or he had headphones in. Some volunteers listen to music during searches to pass the time, though it's technically against protocol. I followed him, trying to close the distance. That's when I noticed he was veering off course, away from our designated search grid. I called out again, louder this time. He stopped and turned partially toward me. I couldn't see his face clearly through the branches, but he raised one arm and gestured forward, like he'd found something, like he needed me to follow. My radio crackled. The team leader was calling for position checks. I reached for it, but when I looked up, the orange vest was moving again, faster now. I didn't want to lose sight of him, didn't want him to find evidence alone if he'd actually discovered something. So I followed. 4:23 p.m. I've been following this guy for over half an hour now. We're way off grid. I've tried calling to him multiple times, but he doesn't respond. Just keeps walking. That orange vest visible through the trees, always about 30 yards ahead. Something's wrong. I tried radioing the team, but I'm getting no response. Just static. The terrain has gotten steeper, and I think we're descending into one of the deeper ravines. My phone shows no signal. I'm starting to think this isn't one of our volunteers. I haven't gotten a clear look at his face, but something about the way he moves is off. Too smooth, too fast for the rough terrain. And now that I'm closer, I can see his vest isn't quite right. Our search vests have the Lumpkin County SAR logo on the back, bright yellow letters on orange reflective material. His vest has no logo. It's just plain orange. And underneath it, I can see clothing. Not hiking gear or work clothes. Something white and loose, flapping as he walks. 4:51 p.m. I need to write this down while I still can, while I can still think clearly. The person I've been following isn't wearing normal clothes under that vest. It's a hospital gown. Dirty, torn, stained with what looks like old blood or mud. I got close enough to see it clearly about 10 minutes ago, and that's when everything changed. He started moving faster, not running, but that smooth gliding walk became quicker, more purposeful, like he knew I'd noticed, like the game was different now. I tried to turn back, but I'm completely disoriented. The ravine has gotten deeper, the sides steeper. The creek at the bottom is loud, drowning out other sounds. I have no radio signal, no phone signal, and the sun is getting lower in the sky. The worst part is I can still see him. That orange vest, always ahead, always just visible through the trees. He's not trying to lose me anymore. He's making sure I can see him, making sure I keep following deeper into this ravine. I found something a few minutes ago that made my blood run cold. Hanging from a tree branch was another orange vest, one of ours, with the SAR logo. It was torn, covered in dirt and what looked like dried blood, and pinned to it was a hospital ID bracelet. The name was barely legible, but I made out enough. Daniel Cross. The hiker we're searching for, he wasn't lost. He was taken by whatever is wearing that vest ahead of me. 5:17 p.m. I've stopped trying to follow. I'm hiding behind a cluster of rocks, trying to figure out which way leads back to the main trail. But the ravine walls are steep, maybe 40 feet high, covered in loose shale that slides when you try to climb it. The thing in the vest has stopped too. It's standing about 50 yards ahead, facing away from me. Just standing there, waiting. I can see it clearly now, in the fading light. Too tall, too thin under that hospital gown. Its head is tilted at an angle that's not quite right. As I watch, it slowly raises one arm and points, not at me, at something else. I follow its gesture and see them. More orange vests, at least a dozen, hanging from trees throughout the ravine. Some recent, some weathered and faded. How long has this thing been luring searchers down here? How many people have disappeared in these woods, written off as hiking accidents or people who simply wandered too far? The thing turns around. For the first time I see its face. I wish I hadn't. It might have been human once, but it isn't anymore. The skin is gray-white, stretched too tight over bones that protrude at wrong angles. The eyes are dark pits, but I can feel them looking at me. The mouth opens, impossibly wide, showing teeth that are broken and sharp. It starts walking toward me, not fast, casual, almost leisurely, like it knows I have nowhere to go, like it's done this before and knows exactly how it ends. I'm going to try to climb the ravine wall. It's my only chance. If anyone finds this notebook, please tell my wife, Rachel, that I love her. Tell her I'm sorry I volunteered for this search. Tell her I tried to come home. The thing is getting closer. I can hear it breathing now, a wet rattling sound like lungs full of fluid. It's still wearing that orange vest, that mockery of the uniform we wear to save people. But underneath is just decay and wrongness, something that should be dead but isn't, something that has learned to hunt the hunters. I'm climbing now. The shale is breaking under my hands, cutting through my gloves. I can hear it below me, that breathing getting louder. I may be 15 feet up when my foot slips. I catch myself, but I've lost my water bottle. It falls and lands near the thing. It picks up the bottle, examines it with those horrible hands, then looks up at me, and it smiles. A wide, broken smile that shows too many teeth. Then it starts climbing, moving up the ravine wall like gravity doesn't apply to it, like the loose shale is a solid ground. It's fast, so much faster than me. I'm not going to make it. I know that now. This ravine is where it ends, where I become another vest hanging from a tree, another name on a missing persons list that will never be solved. It's right behind me now. I can feel its breath on my neck, cold and dead. I can smell it, that hospital smell mixed with rot and earth. Its hand is reaching for my ankle. I'm sorry, Rachel. I'm sorry I couldn't come home. The notebook ends here. The final page is severely damaged, with what appears to be both blood and dirt embedded in the paper. The last several entries show signs of having been written hastily, with numerous spelling errors that have been corrected in this transcription for clarity. Deep claw marks score the back cover, and 3 pages following the final entry have been completely torn out. Analysis of the blood found on the notebook matched Paul Hendricks. A search of the ravine where the notebook was discovered revealed multiple orange search and rescue vests hanging from trees, bearing logos from different counties across North Georgia, spanning a 15-year period. 6 vests were linked to confirmed missing persons cases. The ravine has been designated a restricted area. Paul Hendricks and Daniel Cross remain missing. The following text was recovered from a small notepad found approximately 200 yards from an abandoned campsite in Cherokee National Forest, locally referred to as Cheyenne Forest Area, Polk County, Tennessee, on November the 8th, 2025. The notepad belonged to Gregory Walsh, age 36, from Knoxville, who was reported missing on November 6th, after failing to return from a solo camping trip. His vehicle was located at the Ocoee River trailhead. Gregory Walsh has not been found. November 5th, 2025, 10:47 p.m. I'm writing this by flashlight because I need to document what just happened. My hands are shaking so badly, I can barely grip the pen. But I need to get this down while it's fresh, while I can still think clearly. My name is Gregory Walsh. I'm camping alone tonight in the Cherokee backcountry, about 3 miles off the Ocoee River Trail, in the foothills of the Appalachians. I set up my tent around dusk in a clearing surrounded by thick Tennessee hardwoods. No other campers for miles. Just me, the forest, and the sound of a distant stream. Everything was normal until about 20 minutes ago. I'd been asleep for maybe an hour when nature called. I unzipped my tent and stepped outside to relieve myself, leaving the tent entrance open. I didn't bother with my flashlight. The moon was bright enough, and I only walked about 15 feet away. I was gone maybe 2 minutes, 3 at most. When I turned back toward my tent, I stopped cold. The zipper was closed, completely closed. The entrance I'd left open was now sealed shut. I walked back slowly, confused. Maybe the wind. But there was no wind. The air was perfectly still, and besides, zippers don't close themselves. Especially not the heavy-duty zipper on my tent that requires deliberate effort to pull. I reached for the zipper pull and tried to open it. It wouldn't budge. Not stuck, not jammed. It was being held. I could feel resistance, like someone on the other side was gripping it, holding it closed. "Hello?" I called out, my voice cracking. "Is someone in there?" No answer, but I heard something. A sound that made every hair on my body stand up. Giggling, quiet, breathy giggling from inside my tent. A child's giggle, but wrong somehow. Too high-pitched, too gleeful. I pulled harder on the zipper. Whatever was inside pulled back. I could see the tent fabric bulging outward like someone was pressing their back against it from the inside. The bulge was at exactly the wrong height. Too tall for a child, too low for an adult standing upright, like something crouched or kneeling. "Get out of my tent," I shouted, pulling with all my strength. "Get out!" The giggling got louder. The fabric pressed outward more, and I could see the outline now. Fingers. Long fingers pressing against the nylon from inside, spreading wide, creating raised bumps in the material. Too many fingers. More than 5 on each hand. I let go of the zipper and stepped back. That's when I remembered. My knife is in the tent. My phone is in the tent. My car keys are in the tent. Everything I need is inside, with whatever that thing is. I'm standing outside my own tent, locked out by something that's locked itself inside. And it won't stop giggling. November 5th, 2025, 11:15 p.m. I've been circling the tent for the last 30 minutes, trying to find another way in. The back zipper, the one I use for ventilation, is also closed and held from inside. I tried cutting through the fabric with a sharp rock, but the moment I pressed it against the nylon, the giggling stopped, and I heard a different sound. A growl. Low and guttural and absolutely not human. The fabric where I'd pressed the rock suddenly pushed outward, violently, like something had hit it from inside with tremendous force. The entire tent shook. I dropped the rock and backed away. The giggling resumed. Softer now, almost conversational, like it's talking to itself. I can hear other sounds, too. Rustling, the sound of my belongings being moved around. my backpack zipper, opening and closing. Something going through my things. I tried calling for help, but I'm miles from anywhere. No one can hear me, and I can't leave. My car keys are in there, my phone. Even if I hiked out to the main trail, it would take hours in the dark, and I have no light except the moon. I'm writing this in my notepad, because it's the only thing I had in my jacket pocket. I brought it to sketch trail maps, but now it's the only way to document what's happening. If something happens to me, if I don't make it out of here, someone needs to know. Someone needs to understand what's in these woods. The tent is quiet now. The giggling has stopped, but I can see movement inside. Shadows passing across the fabric, backlit by the faint moonlight. More than one shadow. More than one thing inside my tent. November 5th, 2025, 11:52 OIP. They're calling to me now, not with words, with my phone. I can hear it ringing inside the tent, my ringtone playing over and over, but I didn't set an alarm. No one should be calling me at this hour. The ringing stops, then starts again. Stops, starts. Then I hear my own voice, my voice coming from inside the tent, speaking words I never said. Gregory, come inside, Gregory. We have your keys. We have everything. Come inside and get them. It's my voice. But the inflection is wrong. The pauses are in the wrong places, like something is imitating me but doesn't understand how humans speak. We're cold, Gregory, so cold. We need your warmth. Just unzip the tent and come inside. We'll give you everything back. Promise. The zipper is moving now, slowly unzipping itself from the inside. Inch by inch, the opening is widening. I can see darkness beyond it. Not the darkness of an empty tent, but something deeper. Something that seems to absorb the moonlight rather than reflect it. I should run. Every instinct is screaming at me to run into the woods and not look back. But my keys, my phone, everything I need to survive is in that tent. If I run now, I'll die of exposure before I reach help. It's 40 degrees out here and dropping. I'm only wearing a light jacket. The tent is halfway open now. I can see shapes moving in that darkness. Multiple shapes, hunched and wrong. The giggling has started again, coming from all of them at once. A chorus of childlike laughter that echoes in a way it shouldn't, like it's coming from somewhere farther away than the tent, somewhere deeper. One of them is crawling out. I can see its outline against the faint moonlight. It's roughly human-shaped, but too long. Its arms reach the ground, even though it's standing upright. Its head is tilted at an angle that would break a human neck. Come inside, Gregory, it says with my voice. Come home. More are emerging. 3, 4, 5 of them. They're surrounding the tent, forming a circle, trapping me. And behind them, inside the tent, I can see something else, something bigger, the thing they all crawled out from. A shape that fills the entire interior of my 4-person tent. Too large to fit, but fitting anyway. They're moving toward me now, those long arms reaching out, fingers spreading wide. Too many fingers. They're hurting me, pushing me back toward the tent entrance, back toward that darkness that's waiting inside. I'm going to run. I don't care about the keys anymore. I don't care about anything except getting away from here. I'm going to run as fast and as far as I can, and I'm not going to look back, and I'm going to pray that I can find help before hypothermia, or these things catch up with me. They're touching me now. Those cold fingers on my arms, my shoulders, my back. guiding me, pulling me. The tent entrance is right in front of me. The darkness inside is reaching out. I can feel it, like cold water, like drowning, like... The text ends here. The notepad was found open to this page, lying in mud beneath a pile of leaves. The final entry shows signs of having been written in extreme haste, with the handwriting deteriorating into barely legible scrawl. Several pages following this entry have been torn out completely, leaving only ragged edges. Dark brown stains, later identified as blood, mark the corners of the notebook. Deep scratch marks gouge the back cover as if from fingernails or claws. Gregory Walsh's tent was located at the coordinates he described, fully intact and zipped closed from the outside. The interior was empty except for Walsh's car keys, phone and knife, all arranged in a neat pile in the center of the floor. The phone's battery was dead, but forensic analysis revealed the last activity was an incoming call from Walsh's own number at 11:47 p.m. on November 5th, originating from inside the tent. No other evidence was recovered. Search efforts covered a 12-mile radius, but found no trace of Gregory Walsh. The case remains open. My name is Brett Lawson, and I need to tell you about what happened last October in the Daniel Boone National Forest, along the southern edge of the Appalachian Ridge in eastern Kentucky. What we found there changed how I think about the woods, about maps, and about the people who disappear in places like that. My buddy Eric and I had driven down from Cincinnati for a weekend camping trip. We'd picked up a brochure at the ranger station near Cumberland Falls, one of those photocopied pamphlets with hand-drawn trail maps and descriptions of local features. One entry caught our attention. Blackwater Creek Trail, a moderate 2-mile hike leading to a pristine creek with natural pools perfect for swimming. Says here it's unmarked on official maps, Eric read, but maintained by locals. Look for blue blazes on trees starting half a mile past the Laurel Ridge campground. We found the trailhead exactly where the brochure indicated. The blue blazes were there, painted rectangles on tree bark, faded but visible. The trail was narrow but well-defined, winding through thick Kentucky hardwood forest. It was a perfect autumn day, leaves turning gold and red, temperature in the low 60s. We'd been hiking about 45 minutes when I noticed something odd. A distinctive rock formation, 3 boulders stacked in a pyramid shape, looked familiar. I stopped and pointed it out to Eric. Haven't we passed this already? He checked his compass, frowning. We should be heading east, toward the creek, but according to this, we've been going in circles. We backtracked to confirm. The trail had looped. We'd walked past the same landmarks 3 times without realizing it. The blue blazes had led us in a perfect circle, maybe half a mile in diameter. The brochure must be wrong, Eric said, or these aren't the right blazes. We were about to give up and head back to camp when I heard it. Water. The sound of running water, faint but unmistakable, coming from somewhere off the trail. The creek, I said. It's close. Maybe we're supposed to leave the marked trail. We pushed through the underbrush, following the sound. After about 50 yards, we emerged at a creek bank. The water was clear and fast-moving, maybe 15 feet wide. And on the opposite bank, partially hidden by vegetation, was a tent. At first, I thought it was just another camper's setup. But as we got closer, something looked wrong. The tent was old, the fabric faded and torn. Vegetation had grown around it, through it, like it had been there for years. Small trees, maybe 10 feet tall, had sprouted immediately adjacent to it. This tent had been here for a very long time. "Should we check it out?" Eric asked. The creek was shallow enough to wade across. The water was cold, October cold, and the current was stronger than it looked. We made it across and approached the tent carefully. It was a vintage model, the kind my dad might have used in the 80s. The fabric was rotted in places, held together more by the frame and the vegetation growing through it than by its own structural integrity. The zipper was broken, the flap hanging open. Inside was a sleeping bag, or what remained of one. The outer shell had mostly rotted away, leaving just the frame of synthetic fill. A backpack sat in one corner, its fabric disintegrated, contents spilling out. A metal camp stove, rusted but intact. A pair of hiking boots, still laced, positioned like someone had just stepped out of them. And a notebook. A water-stained, mildew-covered, spiral notebook, lying open on top of the collapsed sleeping bag. Eric picked it up carefully. Most of the pages were illegible, the ink long since faded or bled together. But the last entry, written in heavy pencil that had survived the years better than ink, was partially readable. October 17th, 1991. Eric read aloud. Found the creek finally. Trail kept circling back on itself. Think I'm going the wrong way, but water is good. We'll camp here tonight and figure out direction tomorrow. Getting dark. Heard something moving in the woods. Probably just deer. The next line was harder to make out, the pencil lighter, like it had been written in haste or fear. Not deer. Too big. Walks wrong. It's circling the tent. Can't see it, but can hear it breathing. If anyone finds this, tell my family I made it to the creek. Tell them I tried to follow the trail back, but it wouldn't let me leave. The final line was barely visible, written so light it was almost not there at all. The trail leads here. Only here. It doesn't lead out. We stood there in the abandoned camp, reading those words over and over. Eric pulled out his phone and took photos of the notebook, of the tent, of everything. I searched through the remains of the backpack, looking for identification. I found a wallet, leather so rotted it fell apart when I touched it. Inside was a driver's license, the photo bleached by time, but the name still readable. Michael Chen, age 24, from Louisville, Kentucky. "We need to report this," I said. "This guy disappeared 34 years ago. His family might still be looking for him." Eric nodded, but he was looking around, nervously. "Brett, how did the tent get here? The trail doesn't lead here. We had to go off-trail to find the creek." He was right. The Blue Blaze Trail had looped in a circle, never approaching the creek. We'd only found this spot by leaving the marked path and pushing through the forest. But Michael Chen had followed the trail. His note said he'd found the creek after the trail kept circling, which meant the trail must have led here at some point, or led him here specifically. "Let's get back to camp," I said. "We'll call the rangers, show them the photos." We recrossed the creek and searched for our entry point. It should have been obvious, a clear path of broken vegetation where we'd pushed through. But we couldn't find it. The underbrush was thick and undisturbed in all directions. "We came from that way," Eric said, pointing north. "No, it was west," I argued. "I remember that dead tree." we spent 20 minutes looking for our path before accepting that we were lost. Not badly lost. The creek was right behind us, and we could follow it to eventually hit a road or trail. But the specific spot where we'd emerged from the Blue Blaze Trail had vanished. We walked along the creek bank for about a mile before finding another trail crossing. This one was marked on our map, a legitimate trail that led back to the campground. As we hiked out, I kept thinking about Michael Chen's final words. The trail leads here, only here. It doesn't lead out. We reported everything to the rangers that evening, showed them the photos, described the location as best we could. They promised to investigate, to cross-reference the name with missing persons reports from 1991. 2 rangers went out the next morning to search for the tent. They never found it. Spent 2 days searching the area we described, following the creek for miles in both directions. No tent, no campsite, no evidence anyone had been there. They told us we must have been mistaken about the location, or that animals had scattered the remains in the night. But I know what we saw. I have the photos on my phone, though they're strangely corrupted now, showing mostly shadows and unclear shapes. Eric has nightmares about it, dreams about following blue blazes through a forest that circles endlessly, always leading back to the same spot by the creek where a tent waits with someone inside who will never leave. I researched Michael Chen when I got home. He was reported missing in October 1991 after failing to return from a solo camping trip in Daniel Boone National Forest. The search lasted 2 weeks. He was never found. The file is still open, technically, though no one has actively searched for him in decades. I've been back to that area 3 times since, trying to find the Blue Blaze Trail. It's not there anymore. Or maybe it was never there. Maybe it only appears for certain people, leading them in circles until they're desperate enough to leave the path and push through to the creek. And once you're at the creek, once you've found the place the trail really leads, maybe you never find your way back out. I don't hike in Kentucky anymore. Don't follow trails that aren't on official maps. Don't trust local brochures with hand-drawn directions. Because I learned something that day. Some trails don't lead anywhere. They just circle endlessly, waiting for someone to get tired enough or desperate enough to step off the marked path. And when you do, when you finally find what the trail has been hiding, you learn too late that the trail only goes one direction. Michael Chen learned that in 1991. His tent is still out there somewhere, growing deeper into the earth with every passing year, waiting for the next person to follow the blue blazes that circle and circle and never quite lead home. The following text was recovered from a smartphone found near Burgess Falls State Park, White County, Tennessee, on October 29, 2025. The device belonged to Andrew Marsh, age 31, from Nashville, who was camping with his girlfriend Kelly Brennan, age 28. Kelly's body was discovered approximately 200 yards from their campsite on October 28th. Andrew Marsh remains missing. October 26th, 2025, 11:43 p.m. I'm typing this on my phone because I need to document what's happening. My hands won't stop shaking. The rain is hammering at our tent so hard I can barely hear myself think. But that's not why I'm scared. My name is Andrew Marsh. Kelly and I set up camp this afternoon near the upper trail to Burgess Falls. about half a mile from the main waterfall overlook. It's our anniversary weekend, and Kelly wanted something romantic and secluded. We found a perfect spot in a clearing surrounded by Tennessee hardwoods, far enough from other campers that we have complete privacy. The storm rolled in around 9 p.m. Weather forecast hadn't predicted it, but that's Appalachia for you. 1 minute, clear skies. The next minute, a deluge. We secured the tent and settled in for the night, listening to the rain drum against the nylon. Around 11, Kelly grabbed my arm. "Do you hear that?" I listened. Beneath the rain, there were footsteps. Slow, deliberate footsteps circling our tent. Squelching through the mud, getting closer, then farther, then closer again. "Probably a deer," I said, though I didn't believe it. Deer don't walk like that. These footsteps were heavy, bipedal, human. "Andrew, deer don't walk on two legs." The footsteps stopped at the back of the tent, right behind where Kelly was sitting. We both froze, listening. I could hear breathing, wet, labored breathing, like someone who'd been running hard. Then a sound that made my skin crawl. A hand pressing against the tent fabric from outside. Fingers spreading, pressing hard enough that I could see the outline through the nylon. Kelly screamed. I grabbed my flashlight and unzipped the tent flap, stumbling out into the rain. My beam cut through the darkness and falling water, illuminating the clearing. Nothing. No one. Just rain and trees and mud. I circled the entire tent, checking every angle. No footprints except our own, though the rain was already washing those away. No signs of anyone or anything. Kelly was crying when I climbed back in, soaked to the bone. "I felt it," she said. "I felt the pressure of a hand against my back through the tent wall. Someone was right there, Andrew. Right there. We're still awake. The footsteps haven't come back, but we can't shake the feeling that something is watching us, waiting. I have my knife close, and Kelly has the bear spray. We'll stay alert until dawn, then pack up and leave. This anniversary trip is officially over. October 27th, 2025, 6:47 a.m. dawn finally came. The rain stopped about an hour ago. When we emerged from the tent to pack our gear, Kelly noticed it first. She made a sound like she'd been punched. The back of our tent, the entire rear panel facing the woods, is covered in handprints. Muddy handprints, dozens of them, overlapping and smeared, like someone or something had been pressing against the tent all night, leaning against it. The prints are too large to be human. The fingers are too long, spread, too wide. Kelly set up her trail camera last night before the rain started. It's motion activated, positioned to capture anything approaching from the woods. We checked the footage. There are 47 clips recorded between 11 p.m. and 5 a.m. I'm watching them now, and my blood has gone cold. The first clip shows nothing, just darkness and rain. The second shows the same. But the third clip, triggered at 11:32 p.m., shows something different. The screen is completely black, not dark like nighttime. Black, like something was standing directly in front of the camera, blocking the lens completely. The clip lasts 23 seconds, and the entire time, the screen is pure black. Then the next clip. The camera is angled slightly down now, like something had bumped it. And in the corner of the frame, barely visible in the infrared, I can see it. A shape, tall, impossibly thin, standing at the edge of the clearing. Its head is tilted at an angle that's wrong. And it's watching the tent, watching us. The subsequent clips show it getting closer. Not walking, but that same gliding movement you see in nightmares. In clip 17, it's at the tent. I can see those long fingers pressing against the fabric, can see Kelly's silhouette inside jerking away. The thing's face is near the camera now, and even though the image is grainy and dark, I can see enough. Pale skin, eyes that reflect the infrared like an animal's, and a mouth that opens too wide. Kelly is packing frantically. We're leaving. Right now. I don't care about the gear, we're leaving. But I keep watching the footage because I need to understand what we're dealing with. The later clips show it moving around the tent, pressing those hands against every surface. In clip 34, it's at the front of the tent, at the zipper. Those long fingers are working at the zipper, trying to open it. And I realized with horror that we were sleeping when this was recorded. We didn't hear it, didn't wake up. The zipper moves, inch by inch, opening, and right before the clip ends, I see it starting to reach inside. Andrew! Kelly's voice is sharp. Look at the tent. The front zipper is open, not how we left it. Open about 8 inches, exactly as it appears in the final clip from the camera. It got inside. While we were sleeping, it opened the tent and reached in. October 27th, 2025, 7:15 a.m. We need to leave, but Kelly noticed something. Our hiking boots are gone, both pairs, the ones we'd left outside the tent entrance, and our car keys. I'd left them in my jacket pocket, hanging from the tent pole. The jacket's still there, but the pocket is torn, and the keys are gone. It doesn't want us to leave, Kelly whispers. We're going to hike out anyway. It's half a mile to the main trail, maybe 2 miles from there to the parking area. We can make it if we move fast. The sun is up now. Whatever that thing was, maybe it only comes out at night. I'm putting my phone in my pocket. If anything happens, if we need to call for help, I want it accessible. The trail camera is coming with us too. Evidence. People need to know what's out here. October 27th, 2025, 8:03 a.m. We've been walking for 45 minutes and we're still in the clearing. That's impossible. The clearing is maybe 50 yards across. We've walked in a straight line toward where the trail should be, but we keep ending up back at our tent. The forest won't let us leave. Kelly is having a panic attack. I'm trying to stay calm, but failing. The sun is bright overhead, but the woods around us seem darker than they should be, and I can hear it again. Those footsteps circling us, staying just out of sight in the trees. I'm going to try a different direction. Maybe we got turned around. Maybe October 27th, 2025, 9:27 a.m. The tent is gone. We came back to the clearing to regroup, to try to make sense of what's happening, and our tent has vanished. All our gear, everything, just gone, like it was never there. The only evidence we were ever here is the muddy ground where the tent stood and those handprints now hardening in the morning sun. Kelly is crying. She says she saw it watching us from the trees. That tall, thin shape with its head tilted wrong. I didn't see it, but I believe her. My phone is at 30% battery. No signal. Haven't had signal since we arrived. I'm writing this down because I need someone to know what happened here. If we don't make it out, if something happens, this phone might be found. Our families deserve to know the truth. October 27th, 2025, 11:15 a.m. Something's wrong with Kelly. We've been trying to find our way out for hours, and she's stopped responding to me. She just walks, staring ahead. And when I try to get her attention, she looks at me like she doesn't recognize who I am. I can still hear the footsteps. They're not hiding anymore. I can see it now, following us, staying maybe 20 yards behind. That impossibly tall figure with limbs that are too long and bend at joints that shouldn't exist. Every time I turn to look at it directly, it stops, stands perfectly still, but the moment I turn away, it starts moving again, getting closer. Kelly just walked into the trees, didn't say anything, just left the clearing and disappeared into the forest. I called after her, but she didn't respond. I can hear her footsteps getting farther away. I have to follow her. I can't leave her alone out here with that thing. October 27th, 2025, 12:41 p.m. I found Kelly. She's standing at the edge of a drop-off where the ground falls away into a ravine. The falls are down there. I can hear the water. She's just standing at the edge, her toes over the lip, swaying slightly. Kelly, step back, please. She doesn't respond, doesn't even blink. Her eyes are open, but she's not seeing anything. It's like she's somewhere else, somewhere far away. The thing is behind me. I can feel it, can hear its wet breathing. I'm going to grab Kelly and pull her away from the edge. Whatever happens next, I'm not letting it take her without a fight. It's touching my shoulder now. Those long fingers are on my shoulder, and they're so cold. Kelly is stepping forward. She's going to fall. I'm reaching for her, but my legs won't move. The thing's other hand is on my other shoulder now, and it's so strong, I can't move at all. Kelly is falling. I'm screaming, but no sound is coming out. Kelly is... The text ends here abruptly. The phone was discovered in mud, approximately 15 feet from where Kelly Brennan's body was recovered at the base of a 30-foot drop near Burgess Falls. The final entry shows signs of having been typed in haste, with numerous autocorrect errors that have been preserved in this transcription. The phone's camera roll contained the trail camera footage described, though forensic analysis determined all files showing the unidentified figure were corrupted beyond recovery. The only clear image shows muddy handprints on tent fabric with measurements indicating handspans of 14 inches. Kelly Brennan's cause of death was determined to be trauma from a fall. Andrew Marsh was never found. Search efforts recovered his car keys approximately 200 yards from the campsite, placed carefully on a rock with no fingerprints. His hiking boots were found separately, positioned side by side near the waterfall overlook. The search was suspended after 3 weeks. Local authorities have since received multiple reports of campers near Burgess Falls hearing footsteps outside their tents during storms. My name is Daniel Griffith, and I need to tell you about what happened at Fontana Lake 3 weeks ago. Not because I think you'll believe me, but because someone needs to know the truth about why Ryan Mitchell is still missing. There were 3 of us that October weekend. Me, Ryan, and our friend Marcus Webb. We'd driven down from Asheville to camp near the southern shore of Fontana Lake, right where the Appalachian Trail crosses into the Great Smoky Mountains. It was supposed to be a guy's weekend, a chance to disconnect before the holidays consumed us all. We set up camp at a primitive site about half a mile from the main campground, tucked into the trees with a clear view of the lake. The evening was perfect, cool autumn air, stars emerging as darkness settled over the mountains. and a campfire crackling between our tents. We'd been drinking beer and telling stories for hours when Marcus pulled out his phone. "Let's get a photo," he said. "Document this before we're all too old to hike." Ryan and I flanked him, the three of us arranged with the fire bright behind us. Marcus held his phone at arm's length, angling to get all three of us and the flames in frame. The flash went off twice as he took several shots. "Got it," Marcus said, lowering the phone to review the images. Then his face changed. "What the hell?" "What?" Ryan leaned over to look. I moved closer, peering at the screen. The photo was clear, all three of us visible, the fire casting orange light across our faces. But there was someone else in the frame. Standing directly behind us, between Ryan and me, was a figure we hadn't seen. A man dressed in what looked like torn, dirty clothing. His face was pale, almost luminescent in the flash, and his eyes were fixed directly on the camera, directly on us. "That's not funny," Ryan said, his voice tight. "Who did that? Some kind of filter?" But Marcus was already swiping through the other photos. Every single one showed the same thing. The stranger standing behind us, always in the same position, always staring at the camera with those hollow eyes. "There was nobody there," I said, my skin crawling. "We were alone. I would have seen someone that close." Marcus turned slowly, scanning the darkness beyond our fire's light. The forest was silent, too silent. No crickets, no rustling leaves, nothing but the crackle of burning wood and our own breathing. "Maybe it's a glitch," Ryan suggested, but even he didn't sound convinced. "Phone cameras do weird things in low light." We tried to laugh it off, tried to explain it away with technology or tricks of the light. But none of us could shake the feeling that something was watching from the trees. We kept the fire burning high and didn't stray far from its light. Around midnight, Ryan announced he needed to use the bathroom. We dug a latrine about 50 yards into the woods, just far enough for privacy, but close enough to hear if someone called out. He grabbed his flashlight and headed into the darkness. "Don't take too long," Marcus called after him. "Bears are active this time of year." We heard his footsteps crunching through leaves, then the beam of his flashlight bobbing between the trees, then nothing. Marcus and I sat by the fire, listening to the wood pop and hiss. 5 minutes passed, then 10. "Ryan," Marcus called out. No response. 15 minutes. 20. We grabbed our flashlights and went looking. The latrine area was empty. Ryan's flashlight was on the ground, still lit, pointing at nothing. No signs of struggle, no torn clothing, no blood. Just his light lying in the leaves. We searched for hours, calling his name until our voices were raw. We searched until dawn broke over the mountains, revealing a landscape that looked wrong somehow. The trees seemed to lean inward, and the morning mist clung to the ground like something alive. We called the rangers at first light. Search and rescue arrived by 9 a.m. They brought dogs, helicopters, thermal imaging equipment. They searched for 3 days and found nothing. No trace of Ryan Mitchell except for one thing. His backpack was discovered on the shoulder of Highway 28, about 5 miles from our campsite. Inside was his wallet, his keys, and a printed photograph. The same photo from the campfire, but in this version, there were only 2 people in the frame, Marcus and me. Ryan was gone. The space where he'd been standing was empty, and the stranger, that pale figure in torn clothing, was now standing exactly where Ryan had been. The police questioned us separately, together, with lawyers present. They searched our backgrounds, our phones, our financial records. They thought we'd done something to him. I don't blame them. How do you explain a photograph that changes? How do you tell them that your friend didn't run away or fall in the lake, but that something took him, replaced him in an image we'd taken hours before his disappearance? The printed photo became evidence. Police analyzed it, sent it to forensic experts. They said it was a normal photograph, no signs of digital manipulation. But they couldn't explain why Ryan wasn't in it when we'd all seen him there on Marcus's phone. Marcus deleted the original from his phone that first night, too scared to keep it. I wish we hadn't. I wish we had proof of what we saw. The search was called off after 2 weeks. Ryan Mitchell was declared a missing person. His family held a memorial service last weekend. And I attended, sat in the back and said nothing because, what could I say? That something in those woods took him? That a photograph predicted his disappearance? I still have dreams about that night, about the figure in the photo standing behind with those empty eyes. Sometimes in my dreams, I look at the photo again and the figure is closer, standing right behind me now, where Ryan used to be. And I wake up wondering if I'm next. If that thing, whatever it was, is working its way through the three of us, taking us one by one, removing us from existence like we were never there. Marcus won't talk about it anymore. He's seeing a therapist, taking medication for anxiety. He won't go camping, won't go near Fontana Lake. Flinches whenever someone suggests taking a photo. I'm writing this down because I need someone to understand. If I disappear, if I vanish like Ryan did, I want there to be a record. I want someone to know that there's something in those mountains, something that appears in photographs before it takes you, something that watches from just beyond the firelight, waiting for its moment. Last week, I received a package in the mail. No return address. Inside was another copy of the photo. But this one is different. In this version, there's only one person in the frame. Marcus. I'm gone now, too, erased from the image, and the figure in torn clothing is standing exactly where I used to be, its pale face turned toward the camera, those hollow eyes staring out at whoever looks at the photograph. I called Marcus, told him about the photo. He said he'd received one too. In his version, I'm the only one remaining. He's been removed. We're both still here, both alive, but in our photographs, we're gone. Replaced by that thing from the woods. We don't know what it means. We don't know what comes next. But I think about Ryan every day, about how he walked into those trees and never came back, how he was erased from reality one photograph at a time. And I wonder if we're next, if the photos are a countdown, a warning of what's coming. I'm leaving Asheville tomorrow, moving to Colorado, somewhere far from those mountains. Marcus is heading to Oregon. We figured distance might help. But deep down, I know it won't matter. Whatever took Ryan found a way into our photographs. It found a way to exist where it shouldn't. And I don't think miles or state lines will stop it from finishing what it started that night by Fontana Lake. If you're reading this and I've disappeared, if my name shows up on missing person reports, you'll know the truth. And if you ever go camping in the Smokies, if you ever set up camp near Fontana Lake, check your photos carefully. Look at who's standing behind you in the frame, because sometimes the camera sees things we can't, and sometimes Those things are hunting. The following text was recovered from a smartphone found at Tallulah Gorge State Park, Rabun County, Georgia, on November 14, 2025. The device belonged to Mitchell Carpenter, age 28, who was camping with his girlfriend Amy Norton, age 26. Both were reported missing on November 12th. Amy Norton's body was discovered 3 days later, approximately half a mile from their campsite. Mitchell Carpenter has not been found. November 11th, 2025, 9:47 p.m. I'm writing this on my phone because I need to document what's happening. My hands won't stop shaking, but I need to get this down while I still can. Amy and I set up camp this afternoon near the north rim of Tallulah Gorge, about a quarter mile from the main trail. It's her birthday weekend, and she wanted something romantic and adventurous. The spot is perfect, overlooking the gorge, with the sound of the Tallulah River echoing up from 600 feet below. We've got the whole area to ourselves, no other campers in sight. We cooked dinner over the fire, drank wine from plastic cups, watched the sun disappear behind the mountains. Everything was perfect until about an hour ago. We were in the tent, getting ready for bed, when we heard it. Footsteps, walking across the roof of our tent. Not light steps like a raccoon or squirrel. Heavy, deliberate steps. Something walking on two legs, moving from one end of the tent to the other. The tent fabric sagged under the weight. I could see the indentations, the outline of feet pressing down from above, but that's impossible. Our tent is barely 4 feet tall at its peak. Nothing human-sized could walk on top of it without the whole structure collapsing. "Mitchell, what is that?" Amy whispered, gripping my arm. The footsteps stopped. Complete silence. Then they started again, faster now, pacing back and forth across the roof like whatever it was had heard her voice and was responding to it. I grabbed my flashlight and unzipped the tent, stepped outside and shined the beam up at the tent roof. Nothing. No animal, no person, nothing that could have made those sounds. I walked around the entire perimeter. The ground was soft from yesterday's rain, perfect for tracks. There were our footprints, clear impressions leading to and from the tent, but nothing else. No animal prints, no human footprints, nothing that could explain what we'd heard. "Maybe it was on a branch above us," Amy suggested when I climbed back inside. "Maybe something was walking on a tree branch and it sounded like it was on the tent." I looked up through the mesh ceiling. The nearest tree was 15 feet away, its lowest branches at least 20 feet up. Nothing could have reached us from there. We tried to sleep, told ourselves it was nothing, just the wind or our imagination. But around midnight, it came back. The footsteps were heavier this time, not walking anymore, running. Something running across the tent roof, back and forth, the fabric straining under its weight. Then we heard something else. Scratching, like claws raking across nylon. I could see it happening in real time. Long tears appearing in the tent ceiling, 4 parallel slashes cutting through the fabric right above our heads. Amy was screaming, and I was pulling her toward the exit when the scratching stopped. Silence again. That horrible, expectant silence. I got us outside. The tears in the tent were real, visible in the moonlight. 4 claw marks, each about a foot long, sliced clean through the tent ceiling. But again, no tracks around the tent, no sign of what had done it. Amy had her camera running, She'd hit record when the scratching started, trying to document what was happening. We huddled by the dying fire and watched the footage. The video showed nothing, just darkness and static. The audio was corrupted, filled with electronic glitches and sounds that weren't human, and every time Amy's camera had pointed at the tent roof during the scratching, the screen went completely black, not dark like nighttime. Black like the camera had been covered or something was interfering with it. "We're leaving," Amy said. "Right now. Pack everything. We're hiking out." But as we started gathering our gear, the footsteps came back. Not on the tent this time, on the ground, circling our campsite. We couldn't see anything, but we could hear it. Heavy footfalls in the leaves, moving around us in a wide circle. The fire was almost dead, just embers now. I threw on more wood, needing light, needing to see what was out there. The flames caught, illuminating maybe 20 feet in all directions. Beyond that, just darkness and trees. That's when we saw the eyes, reflecting the firelight from the edge of the clearing. Not animal eyes, too high off the ground, too far apart. And they weren't round like animal eyes. They were elongated, vertical, like something between human and reptilian. The thing stepped closer. Just one step, but enough for us to see its outline. Tall, easily 7 feet, but hunched. Its limbs were too long, bent at angles that weren't right, and its head, its head was wrong. Too large, sitting on too thin a neck, cocked to one side like it was studying us. It made a sound, a clicking noise deep in its throat, like insects or bones tapping together. Then it smiled. I saw teeth, too many teeth, sharp and uneven, in a mouth that opened too wide. Amy ran, just bolted into the forest, away from the thing, screaming for me to follow. I hesitated, frozen by what I was seeing, and that moment of hesitation saved my life. The thing moved, not walked, not ran, but scuttled forward on all fours, with impossible speed. It went past me, ignoring me completely, chasing Amy into the trees. I heard her screaming, heard branches breaking, heard that clicking sound getting farther away. Then silence. I stood there for maybe 5 minutes, paralyzed. Then survival instinct kicked in. I grabbed my phone and started running in the opposite direction. Didn't try to help Amy, didn't try to fight that thing. Just ran like a coward through the dark forest. I'm writing this from behind a boulder about half a mile from camp. It's 3:47 a.m. now. I haven't heard Amy's voice since she ran. Haven't heard that thing either. Just the wind and the distant sound of the river. My phone has 15% battery left. No signal out here, but I'm documenting this in case someone finds the phone. In case I don't make it out. I keep thinking about those footsteps on the tent. How it was walking on something that should have collapsed under weight. How it left claw marks, but no tracks. How the camera couldn't capture it properly, like it existed in a way that technology couldn't process. I think I know what happened to those hikers who disappeared near Tallulah Gorge last year, the ones they never found. The authorities said they probably fell into the gorge, but they never found bodies, never found evidence. I can hear something now. Movement in the trees. That clicking sound, distant, but getting closer. It's looking for me. It knows I'm out here. The smart thing would be to keep running, but I'm exhausted and lost. The gorge is somewhere to my left. I can hear the river, but I don't know which direction leads back to the trail. If I run blindly, I might go deeper into the forest or fall into the gorge itself. I'm going to try to hide here until dawn. Then I'll find my way back to the main trail. Just need to survive until sunrise. The clicking is closer now. I can see movement between the trees. Multiple shapes, not just one. They're communicating with each other, those clicking sounds going back and forth like language. They're hunting me, working together. And I think they know exactly where I am. I'm sorry, Amy. I should have stayed and fought. I should have tried to help you. But that thing, those things, they're not natural. They're not animals. They're something else, something that shouldn't exist. If anyone finds this phone, if anyone reads this, don't go near Tallulah Gorge after dark. Don't camp alone in the northern section. There's something in those woods that walks on tent roofs and leaves no tracks and tears through fabric with claws that don't follow the laws of physics. The clicking has stopped. That's worse somehow. When I could hear it, I knew where it was. Now it's silent, and that means it's close. Very close. I can smell it now. Rot and earth and something chemical. It's standing right behind this boulder. I know it is. I can feel it watching me, waiting to see what I'll do. I'm not going to run anymore. There's nowhere left to run. I'm going to turn around and face whatever it is, because dying while looking at it seems better than dying with my back turned and not knowing when it will strike. The text ends here. The phone was found partially buried under leaves. The screen cracked but functional. Forensic analysis of the device recovered several corrupted video files showing only static and darkness. Amy Norton's body was located 0.4 miles northwest of the campsite. Cause of death attributed to severe trauma consistent with a large predator attack, though no known animal in the region matches the injury patterns. Mitchell Carpenter's tent was found torn and abandoned, with 4 parallel slashes across the ceiling. No footprints or tracks were found around the site, despite muddy conditions. Mitchell Carpenter remains missing. The search was suspended after 2 weeks. Local rangers have since reported multiple campers hearing unexplained footsteps and scratching sounds in the area. My name is Garrett Sullivan, and I need to tell you about what happened last month in the mountains of Hancock County, Tennessee. What I'm about to describe sounds impossible, but I have the recording. I have proof that something was with us that night. Something that spoke our names in a voice that shouldn't exist. My best friend Cole Winters and I decided to spend a weekend camping in the Cherokee National Forest, just off Forge Creek Road. We'd been planning it for months, a chance to disconnect from work and social media. Ironically, we brought our phones anyway. Cole wanted content for his TikTok account. He had maybe 2,000 followers and dreams of going viral with outdoor adventure videos. We set up camp in a clearing about 2 miles from the nearest trailhead, surrounded by dense Appalachian forest. The trees were thick here, old growth that blocked out most of the fading sunlight. By the time we got our fire going, full darkness had settled over the mountains. "This is perfect," Cole said, positioning his phone on a rock to record us. Campfire stories, just 2 guys roughing it in the wilderness. The algorithm loves this authentic stuff. We sat across from each other with the fire between us, its flames casting orange light across our faces. Cole hit record, and we started talking. Nothing profound, just the usual banter, stories about work, complaints about our boss, jokes that were funnier with beer in our systems. We recorded maybe 20 minutes before Cole's phone battery died. "I'll edit it tomorrow," he said, pocketing the device. "Got enough footage for 3 or 4 posts." The night progressed normally after that. We drank more beer, watched the stars emerge between the tree branches, and eventually crawled into our tents around midnight. I slept well, the kind of deep sleep you only get in the woods, where the silence is absolute. The next morning, while we were breaking camp, Cole pulled out his phone to start reviewing the footage. I was rolling up my sleeping bag when I heard him go quiet. Not normal quiet. The kind of silence that makes you look up immediately. His face had gone pale, his eyes fixed on the phone screen. "Garrett, you need to hear this." He held out his phone with the video pulled up. I could see us on screen, sitting by the fire, talking and laughing. He scrubbed to a specific timestamp and turned up the volume. My voice came through the speaker. "Remember when Jenkins fell asleep in that meeting?" Cole's voice. "Oh, God," and started snoring during the quarterly review. Then, between our voices, so faint I almost missed it, another voice whispered, "Garrett." "Cole." We both froze. The whisper was breathy, layered somehow, like multiple voices speaking in unison. It didn't sound human. It sounded like wind through a cave, like dead leaves rustling in an empty room. "That wasn't there when we recorded it," Cole said. "I would have heard someone that close." "Play it again." He rewound. My voice, Cole's voice, then that whisper, threading between our words. "Garrett, Cole." "Could be interference," I suggested, though I didn't believe it. "Radio signals or something." But as we listened to more of the recording, we found other instances. Throughout the 20 minutes of footage, that third voice appeared again and again, sometimes whispering our names, sometimes making sounds that weren't quite words, and sometimes, most disturbingly, it seemed to be responding to our conversation. At one point in the video, Cole had said, "I love it out here. So peaceful, just us and nature." And the third voice, barely audible beneath his words, whispered, "Not just you." "We need to delete this," Cole said, his hand shaking. "This is wrong. This is really wrong." "Wait." I took the phone from him. "Let me hear the end." The final minute of the recording showed us still talking, still laughing, completely unaware. But the third voice had gotten louder. You could hear it clearly now, without even turning up the volume. It was whispering constantly, a stream of sounds that might have been words in a language I didn't recognize. Then, at the very end, right before Cole's battery died, the camera angle shifted slightly. The phone must have moved on its own or been bumped. For just a moment, maybe 2 seconds, the frame captured the darkness behind us, beyond the firelight, between the trees. There was something there, a shape, tall and impossibly thin, standing just at the edge of where the light reached. It had no features I could distinguish, just a dark silhouette that seemed to absorb the firelight rather than reflect it. And it was leaning forward, leaning toward us like it was listening. The video ended. The screen went black. Cole snatched the phone back and deleted the file immediately, his fingers jabbing at the screen with panicked urgency. "We're leaving. Right now." We packed in record time and hiked out. Didn't speak. Didn't stop. Just moved as fast as we could through those trees. Every shadow seemed to hide something. Every rustle of leaves made us flinch. The forest that had seemed peaceful the night before now felt hostile, like it was watching us leave. We made it to Cole's truck by noon and drove straight back to Knoxville. We didn't talk about it during the drive. Didn't talk about it for a week. But I couldn't stop thinking about that voice, about the thing we'd seen in the darkness beyond our fire. 2 weeks later, Cole sent me a text message. "It's still happening." I called him immediately. "What do you mean?" "I recorded myself yesterday just talking to the camera in my apartment. When I played it back, the voice was there, in my apartment, Garrett, in my own home, whispering my name. Delete it." I did. But I recorded again this morning to test it. Same thing. Every video I make now has that voice in it. Like whatever it was, followed me home. I tested it myself that night. Recorded a simple video on my phone, just me talking to the camera about nothing important. When I played it back, I heard it. That layered whisper, like wind through dead trees, saying my name beneath my own voice. It's been 3 weeks now. The voice appears in every recording I make. Cole says the same thing is happening to him. We've tried everything. New phones, different recording apps. Even went to a church and had a priest bless our devices. Nothing works. The voice is always there. Sometimes it just whispers our names. Sometimes it says other things, words we can't quite understand. And sometimes, late at night when I'm reviewing footage, I see it in the background. That tall, thin shape standing just beyond where my camera light reaches. Watching, waiting. I don't know what we disturbed that night in the Hancock County woods. I don't know why it attached itself to our recordings. But I know this. There are things in the old mountains that don't want to be ignored. Things that have learned to speak through our technology, to ride the digital signals we trust so completely. Cole and I have stopped making recordings altogether. We communicate through text messages and phone calls now, though I wonder if it's listening to those too. We've discussed going back, finding that campsite again, trying to leave some kind of offering or an apology. But we're both too scared, because we know it's still there, in those dark woods off Forge Creek Road. And we know now that it can follow you home. Last night I woke to a sound, a whisper, not from my phone or computer, from right beside my bed. The same layered, breathy voice, so close I could feel it against my ear. Garrett. I didn't move, didn't breathe, just lay there in the darkness until dawn, listening to that voice whisper my name over and over in the empty room. Whatever it is, it's not content with recordings anymore. It's learned to exist without them, and I think it's getting closer. My name is Travis Holden, and I'm telling you this story from a hospital bed in Dahlonega, Georgia. The doctors say I'm suffering from hypothermia and severe dehydration, but they can't explain the other injuries, the scratches, the bite marks that don't match any known animal. Most of all, they can't explain why I won't stop checking the door, why I flinch at every footstep in the hallway. It started 4 days ago when I decided to do a solo camping trip in the Blue Ridge Mountains, just off Dockery Lake Trail in Fannin County. I needed solitude after the divorce, needed to clear my head somewhere without cell service or responsibilities. I packed light, tent, sleeping bag, basic cooking gear, enough food for 3 days. I found a clearing about 2 miles from the trailhead, far enough that I wouldn't see other hikers. The site was perfect, surrounded by thick Georgia pine and mountain laurel. with a small stream nearby for water. I set up camp, built a fire, and cooked a simple dinner of beef stew in my camping pot. I ate maybe half of it, then left the pot by the fire to cool before cleaning it in the morning. Old habit from years of camping. I was exhausted, and the thought of scrubbing a pot in the dark held no appeal. I crawled into my tent around 10 p.m. and fell asleep almost immediately. I woke to full daylight and the sound of birds. My watch showed 7:32 a.m. I'd slept 9 hours straight, the deepest sleep I'd had in months. I felt good, refreshed, ready to enjoy a full day of hiking. I unzipped my tent and stepped out into the cool mountain morning. That's when I noticed the pot. It was empty, completely empty. Not a trace of stew remained, not even the residue that should have dried on the sides overnight. The pot was clean, almost scrubbed, sitting exactly where I'd left it by the dead fire. I stood there confused, trying to remember if I'd actually eaten the rest before bed. But no, I distinctly remembered leaving half the pot full. I'd been looking forward to reheating it for breakfast. Then I saw the spoon. It was lying in the dirt next to the fire ring, a wooden spoon, hand-carved, the handle worn smooth from years of use. I don't own a wooden spoon. I'd never seen this spoon before in my life. I picked it up, turned it over in my hands. It was real, solid, recently used. Bits of dried stew clung to the bowl. My skin began to crawl. I looked around the campsite more carefully. That's when I found the footprints. They were in the soft earth near my tent, clear impressions in the morning dew. Bare feet, human feet, but wrong somehow. The toes were too long, splayed too wide, and the arch was nearly flat. The prints led from the forest, circled my tent twice, stopped at the fire ring where my pot sat, then returned to the trees in a different direction. Someone had been in my camp while I slept. Someone had eaten my food, used their own spoon, and walked away. And I hadn't heard a sound. I should have packed up immediately. Every instinct screamed at me to leave. But it was broad daylight, and the rational part of my mind insisted there had to be an explanation. Another camper, maybe. Someone desperate and hungry who'd stumbled across my sight. The strange footprints could be explained by injury or deformity. I decided to stay one more night. I'd keep my knife close, stay alert. If anything else happened, I'd hike out at first light. That day, I felt watched. Every time I looked into the forest, I sensed movement just beyond my vision. Shadows that shifted when they shouldn't. Branches that bent without wind. I tried to convince myself it was paranoia, but the feeling persisted. As evening approached, I built my fire bigger than necessary and cooked another pot of stew. This time, I ate all of it, every last bite. I washed the pot thoroughly and kept it inside my tent with me, along with all my food. I zipped the tent closed, gripped my knife, and tried to sleep. I must have dozed off around midnight. When I woke, it was still dark, but something was wrong. I could hear breathing, not my own breathing, someone else's, right outside my tent. The sound was wet, labored, like someone with fluid in their lungs. It circled the tent slowly, accompanied by soft footfalls, those bare feet padding on the forest floor. I lay perfectly still, my hand frozen on the knife handle, too terrified to move. Then I heard something that stopped my heart, a voice, low and raspy, barely human. Hungry, so hungry. You sleep, I eat. Fair, fair. The footsteps stopped at the tent entrance. I could see a shadow through the nylon, a shape that stood too tall, bent at angles that weren't right. Sid reached toward the zipper, and I heard fingernails, impossibly long fingernails, scraping against the fabric. "Let me in. Share food. Fair." I wanted to scream, but couldn't find my voice. The zipper began to move, pulled from outside. Inch by inch, the tent was opening. I could smell something now, a rancid odor like spoiled meat and wet earth. That's when survival instinct took over. I lunged forward with my knife and slashed through the opposite side of the tent, cutting my own exit. I burst out into the night and ran. Didn't look back, didn't think, just ran through the dark forest, branches tearing at my face and arms. Behind me, I heard it give chase, not running like a human runs, but loping, using all fours. I could hear its breathing getting closer, that wet, rattling sound. I veered toward the stream, splashed through the cold water, kept running until my lungs burned and my legs gave out. I collapsed behind a fallen log and finally allowed myself to look back. It was standing at the edge of the stream, silhouetted against the faint starlight. Tall and skeletal, its limbs too long, its head cocked at an unnatural angle. It watched me with eyes that reflected light like an animal's. Then it smiled. I saw teeth, too many teeth, sharp and broken. It raised one hand in what might have been a wave and spoke one more time. Tomorrow I eat more." It turned and walked back into the forest, disappearing into the darkness like it had never been there. I spent the rest of the night behind that log, knife in hand, shivering from cold and terror. At first light, I started hiking toward the trailhead. I didn't stop, didn't rest, just moved as fast as my exhausted body would allow. A ranger found me on Dockery Lake Trail around noon, hypothermic and incoherent. They searched for my campsite, but couldn't find it. The forest had erased it, or I'd gotten so turned around in my panic that I couldn't remember where it was. They found no tracks, no evidence of anyone or anything else in those woods. But they did find something in my backpack, which I'd somehow grabbed during my escape, was a wooden spoon, the same hand-carved spoon that had appeared by my fire that first morning. I don't remember putting it there, don't remember touching it again after that first time. The doctors say I'm recovering well. They say the scratches and bite marks must have come from branches and falls during my panicked run through the forest. They say the trauma of being alone induced hallucinations, that I imagined the whole thing. But I know what I saw. I know what I heard. And I know that somewhere in the Blue Ridge Mountains, something is still hungry. Something that visits camps at night, eats from travelers' bowls, and leaves behind wooden spoons as calling cards. I've been researching since I got here. Found old stories, folklore from the Appalachian region. Tales of things that were once human, but got lost in the deep woods, got so hungry they ate things they shouldn't have, changed into something else. The old-timers called them different names: Wendigos, wood devils, hunger walkers. Whatever it is, it's real, and it told me it would eat more tomorrow. I don't know what that means. I don't know if it followed me out of those mountains or if it's still there, waiting for the next solo camper to build a fire and cook something that smells good. All I know is this: if you ever go camping in the Blue Ridge Mountains and you wake to find your food gone and a wooden spoon you don't recognize lying by your fire, don't wait for nightfall. Don't stay to see what comes back. Pack your things and leave immediately, because there's something in those woods that's always hungry, and it knows where you sleep. I'm being discharged tomorrow. The doctors say I'm fine, that I just need rest and time to process the trauma. But I heard the nurse talking in the hallway last night. She said someone broke into the hospital kitchen, ate food directly from the pots on the stove, left footprints on the floor, bare footprints with toes too long and an arch too flat. And on the counter, they found a wooden spoon. It found me, and I think it's still hungry. The following text was recovered from a phone belonging to Isaac Brennan, age 32, found on a trail near New River State Forest in Southern Virginia on November 3rd, 2025. Isaac was reported missing by his brother on October 29th. The phone was discovered partially buried in leaves, battery dead, screen cracked. The note below was found in a draft email addressed to Isaac's brother, but never sent. Tyler, if you're reading this, something is very wrong. I'm writing this down because I need someone to understand what I've been seeing in the footage, what's been appearing in every video I've shot. Since I got to Virginia 3 days ago, I think I'm being followed. No, that's not right. I think I've always been followed, and I'm only now seeing it. My name is Isaac Brennan, and I came to the New River forests to film content for my YouTube channel. I do hiking and wilderness photography, nothing fancy, just a guy with a decent camera trying to make a living, documenting beautiful places. I'd heard the fall colors in Southern Virginia were spectacular, so I drove down from Baltimore and set up camp in a remote section of the forest near Grayson Highlands. The first day was perfect. I hiked about 6 miles, filming constantly, getting shots of the ridgelines, the hardwood forests in their autumn glory, a small waterfall I found off the main trail. I'm meticulous about my footage, always checking the playback to make sure I got clean shots, proper exposure, smooth pans. Everything looked great. That night at camp, I was reviewing the day's footage on my laptop, organizing clips for editing. That's when I first saw it. In a video I'd shot that morning, a simple panning shot of the forest, there was a flicker, just a single frame, maybe 2, so brief that if I hadn't been scrubbing through slowly, I would have missed it completely. But I caught it, and I paused. The image was blurred from motion, but clear enough. Between the trees in the mid-ground of my shot was a figure, humanoid, tall, wearing what looked like a dark hooded jacket or cloak. It appeared to be running, caught mid-stride, moving perpendicular to my camera angle. I sat there staring at that frozen frame for a full minute. I had been alone on that trail, completely alone. I would have seen someone, would have heard them crashing through the underbrush. But there was nothing. Just me in the forest and the sound of wind in the branches. Maybe another hiker, I thought. Someone moving fast enough that I'd miss them in my peripheral vision. It happened. People zone out when they're filming, focusing so intently on framing and composition that they miss their surroundings. I kept reviewing footage. An hour later, I found another one. Different video, different location, different time of day, but the same flicker, the same single frame blur showing a hooded figure running between trees, always in the background, always at the edge of my frame, always moving. By midnight, I'd reviewed all of that day's footage, 16 videos. In every single one, somewhere in the recording, that figure appeared, always for just a frame or two, always running, always hooded. I didn't sleep well that night. Kept thinking about those frames, about the impossibility of someone being in every shot without me noticing, about the way the figure moved, that strange fluid motion that seemed too fast and too smooth at the same time. The next morning, I packed up camp and hiked to a different location, telling myself I was just being paranoid. The human brain is wired to see patterns, to find faces in random visual noise. Maybe it was lens flare or digital artifacts or something my mind was imposing on, ambiguous shadows. I set up my camera on a tripod in a new clearing, started filming a time-lapse of clouds moving over the mountains. I stood there, watching the camera for 15 minutes, making sure nothing entered the frame, making sure I documented everything properly. That night when I reviewed the time-lapse, it was there again, not just in one frame this time, in dozens of frames scattered throughout the recording. The hooded figure always in different positions, always running, always staying just at the edge of visibility. In the time-lapse, it created this horrible strobe effect, like the figure was teleporting through the forest in rapid jumps. I zoomed in on one of the clearer frames. The figure was closer this time, maybe 30 yards from my camera, close enough that I could see details. The hood was deep, casting the face in complete shadow. The body beneath was thin, too thin, like something had been stretched. And the hands, visible for just that single frame, were wrong. The fingers, too long, too many joints. Tyler, I swear to you, I was alone when I filmed that. There was nobody in that clearing, nobody in those trees. I watched that camera for the entire time-lapse. But somehow, something was there, moving through frames, appearing in impossible moments. I'm writing this on my third night in these mountains. I'm at a new campsite, farther from any trails, trying to figure out what to do. Part of me wants to leave, to pack up and drive straight back to Baltimore and forget this ever happened. But another part, the part that needs to understand, that needs answers, keeps me here. I did something stupid today. I set up multiple cameras, all recording simultaneously from different angles, all pointed at me, standing in the middle of a clearing. If something was following me, if something was appearing in my footage, I was going to capture it from every angle. I was going to force it into visibility. I just finished reviewing the footage from all 4 cameras. Tyler, I think I made a terrible mistake. The figure appears in all 4 videos. But here's what makes my hands shake as I write this. It's always facing the camera. No matter which angle, no matter which direction, the hooded figure is always oriented toward the lens. In one frame, it's behind me, hood facing camera A. Next frame, it's to my left, hood now facing camera B. Next frame, to my right, facing camera C. It's not running through the forest randomly, it's circling me, and it knows where the cameras are. I zoomed in on the clearest frame, from camera D, the one with the best lens. The figure was maybe 20 feet behind me, perfectly in focus for that single frame. And Tyler I could see under the hood. Not features exactly, just darkness. But it was the wrong kind of darkness. Not shadow, not emptiness. Something that moved, that writhed, that looked back. I'm going to try to sleep now, though I don't think I can. The forest feels different tonight. Too quiet, too still. I keep thinking I hear footsteps circling my tent, but When I look outside with my flashlight, there's nothing there. Tomorrow, I'm leaving. First light, I'm hiking back to my truck and getting out of these mountains. I'll send you this email as soon as I have service. If something happens, if I don't make it out, you need to see this footage. You need to know what's out here. I'm leaving all the video files on my laptop's desktop, folder marked New River. Look at them. Really look. Scrub through frame by frame. You'll see what I saw. You'll understand why I'm scared. It's 2:34 a.m. now. I just heard something outside my tent. Not footsteps. Something else. Like fabric sliding against nylon. Like something dragging itself along the outside of my tent wall. I'm looking at the footage from today one more time. The last video I shot right before sunset. I filmed myself talking to the camera, explaining what I'd found, documenting everything. Standard vlogger stuff. Tyler, I just saw something that makes me understand. In that video, in the background behind me, the hooded figure is there, but it's not running this time. It's standing perfectly still, and it's closer than it's ever been before. Maybe 10 feet behind me. Close enough that I should have felt its presence. Close enough that I should have heard it breathing. Close enough to touch me. I'm checking the video's timestamp. I filmed it at 6:47 p.m., and in the corner of the frame I can see my truck. My truck that I thought was half a mile away, but it's right there. Which means I've been walking in circles all day. The figure hasn't been following me through the forest. It's been hurting me, keeping me here. Something just scratched at my tent. 3 long scrapes, like fingernails on fabric. I'm going to open this tent. I'm going to confront whatever this is. I need to see it properly. Not through a camera, not in single frames. I need to know what's been following me. The scratching is getting louder, more insistent. I can hear breathing now. That same wet, labored breathing from my dream last night. Except I wasn't dreaming, was I? It was here then, too. It's been here every night. I just couldn't see it without the camera. I'm unzipping the tent now. My flashlight is in my hand. Tyler, if you're reading this, if I never sent this email, if someone else found my phone, you need to know. Don't go into the New River forests. Don't film anything in these mountains. Some things don't want to be seen directly. Some things only exist in the gaps between moments, in the flicker between frames. And once you've seen them, once you've captured them in your footage, they see you back. The tent is open. I'm pointing my flashlight outside. There's nothing there. Just darkness and trees and the cold November wind. But my phone is recording. I'm filming this moment, and when I play it back, I know what I'll see in those single frames between now and whatever comes next. The hooded figure, standing right in front of me, close enough to touch, close enough to take. I'm not alone in this tent. I never have been. It's been here the whole time, existing in the spaces between what my eyes can see and what my camera captures, in the flicker between the trees, in the moment between frames, and now it's reaching for me with those 2 long fingers. And I understand that I've been wrong about everything. It wasn't following me. It was never following me. I was following it. Every step I took deeper into these mountains, every frame I captured, I was walking toward it, accepting its invitation, becoming part of its footage. My camera is still recording. When someone finds this phone, when they find my laptop, they'll see the last video. They'll scrub through it frame by frame like I did. And in those single frames, they'll see what happened to me. They'll see the hooded figure reaching out. They'll see me reaching back. They'll see the moment when I finally understood that the flicker between the trees wasn't something running through the forest. It was the forest itself, reaching out through time and space and the thin membrane between what is and what watches. And now I'm part of it, part of the flicker, part of the footage that will appear in someone else's camera when they come to these mountains looking for beauty and finding something else entirely. Tell Mom and Dad I love them. Tell them I'm sorry. Tell them not to look at the videos. But you should look, Tyler. You need to see. You need to understand that I'm still here, in these mountains, in these frames. I'm the figure in the hood now. I'm the flicker between the trees. And if you come looking for me, if you bring your camera to document your search, I'll be there, in every frame, in every shot, getting closer with each flicker, waiting for you to see me. Note: Isaac Brennan's laptop was recovered from his abandoned campsite 6 days after his disappearance. The laptop contained 47 video files from his trip. Virginia State Police and FBI analysts have reviewed all footage. While the files show what appear to be visual anomalies consistent with Isaac's description, authorities have concluded these are likely digital artifacts or lens flares compounded by Isaac's deteriorating mental state. No hooded figure or evidence of another person has been conclusively identified in the footage. Isaac's tent was found intact with no signs of struggle. His truck was located 3.2 miles from the campsite, inconsistent with Isaac's email claim that it was visible in his final video. Search efforts were suspended after 3 weeks. Isaac Brennan remains missing. His case is classified as a voluntary disappearance, though his family disputes this conclusion. The laptop and phone have been returned to his family.